Bonjour, mes petits croissants. That should probably not be my sign-on. It's also stolen from somebody on the internet. Anyway, mis hermanos, my brethren and sisters. Witnessing, telling people about Jesus, being a good witness, evangelizing, being a missionary. That's like the thing we're here for, right? It's considered like the purpose of our lives, even though, as I've said, I think it's more helpful to conceptualize the purpose of your life as the glory of God and like everything else nested into that. But it's a source of stress and anxiety for most, I think, evangelical Christians, or like most Christians who have that as one of the things they're consciously supposed to be doing all the time, which it's in the Bible, so, you know. And it certainly was for me for most of my spiritual life. I took it way too far, as I am wont to do. Took it very, very far. And honestly, so you know like where I'm coming from here, pretty much had what I think, if it had been secular, would have been diagnosed as obsessive compulsive disorder as regards the passing out tracts and going through the gospel with people. Little normal daily things in my life were like an ordeal. I dreaded going to the grocery store. I dreaded going on airplane rides by myself. Everything, because all the time in the back of my mind it was, does God want me to go give a tract to that person? Does God want me to witness to them? I did, but like I didn't say enough, or maybe I should have stopped and talked to them for longer, and it was getting in the way of my life. I couldn't even live life because I was just doing this all the time. And the conventional advice to have a balance didn't really work for me, because I'm like, well, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my whole life, where's the balance? How am I supposed to sometimes not be obeying the Great Commission and sometimes be obeying it? I mean, there shouldn't be no balance in it. If it's right and if it's the purpose of my life, I should really be doing it all the time, and I can't. And yeah, it was bad. So that's kind of the first thing that I want to rethink witnessing and avoid. That, or some little version of it. I'm guessing most people won't take it as far as I did. But then also this thing that annoys a lot of non-Christians and turns them off Christianity. And I will link a video explaining that, and it was helpful for me to put into words a lot of what I'd even picked up on in some of the ways that I was feeling when I would go door to door and stuff. And that is this feeling that Christians are just like salespeople, salesmen essentially. Instead of being a real person who's talking to you and interested in you as a human being, they just look at you as a target. And they're just interested in selling you their particular dogma and in watching you go through these motions in this step and like accept Christ. And if you won't do that, they no longer care about you as a person. And basically they're just, because of their religious dogma, they're just fake. And you can't even like have a proper conversation. They're just always trying to steer the conversation toward this one specific funnel of like the gospel, and then force you to kind of accept it. And I used to feel, and then almost even all of the rest of your relationship with that person, just as a person or anything that's your friendship, gets kind of subsumed into that goal and that like framework of, I need to get this person to the gospel, I need to get this person to listen, so that you act friendly to them. But in reality, it's just kind of almost manipulation to get them to, like a reverse thing of like, okay, well, if I act nice to them, then they'll want Jesus because they have to want Jesus, and it's just quite backwards, I think. And yeah, they're just very fake. And distasteful if you're on the receiving end of it, and it's unpleasant if you're on the giving end of it, because you can't even have actual friendships and relationships in your life. It just has to be this mechanical thing of like, oh yes, the metaphor being relationship as project. Like, I don't see that there's me as a person and this other person. I see there's me and I have this project, which is convert people, which I have this specific formula in my head for, and they're 50% on that and 60%, and just looking at your relationships as projects, which I don't think is the way that Jesus looked at his relationships. So, but we're supposed to be, Jesus said, go ye into all the world and teach all nations, and we're supposed to be sharing this. So how do we do that without making it mechanical? I last year in the Bible college I was going to, these missionaries, the girlies, visited us. I don't know if I should say their name online. Oof. Okay. They're going to a country, unnamed, where they can't, like, it's illegal to be Christians. So it's punishable by death, or I think. Anyway, they can't do the public stuff. They can't go out soul winning. They can't do anything that we consider soul winning or witnessing. All they can do is go there, be good neighbors, like have a good family, make friends, and hope that people will eventually see a difference in them and ask about it. And he preached such a beautiful lesson on soul winning and what it really means and the full meaning of it. And kind of that verse, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and connecting that to the fruit of the Holy Spirit, which is just general life stuff. I mean, the fruit of the Holy Spirit isn't every time I see a stranger in the store, I go up to them and give them a tract. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, etc., which are just very general characteristics that is just something that kind of comes off of you that people see. And that, like fruit, it attracts people, and they want that and want to know where does it come from and want it for themselves. And that's what the Bible kind of is talking about with the fruit of the righteous and with winning souls. It's not an activity, it's a life. And that doesn't mean, again, a life which is defined by how many tracts you gave out this week, or how many hours of door knocking you did this week, or how many people you opened the Bible with and went through the gospel this week, in my, at least, understanding. It's a life, rather, that is marked by love. You could sum all of the fruit of the Spirit up as love. And since you are a Christian, and since your love is for God, when the opportunity arises, I truly believe that if your relationship with God is right, if your understanding of who God is right, and therefore you love Him like you're supposed to love Him, and genuinely you recognize what He is to you and who He is in all the world and what is working, then when there's a good opening to specifically witness and specifically share the gospel in a more traditional way, you're going to do it just because you want to. But therefore then, if it's happening naturally, it doesn't have to be this project thing. It doesn't have to be this mechanical habit thing that gets in the way of a genuine relationship with people, or that turns people off you as a person because all they see in you is this dead robot salesman, just always trying to push a specific idea on them and not even able to have a normal conversation with them. I think maybe one analogy to explain the difference in lifestyles would be being hired as a salesman for a particular product, but an undercover, plainclothes salesman, so that you're paid to just live, but every interaction you have, you've got it in your mind, I need to sell them this product. So you're gonna kind of subtly find ways to artificially slip that in. And maybe you have the product and you kind of like it, but naturally you wouldn't be doing this. You're just doing it because you're supposed to, and it's earning you your salary and everything. Versus being a parent who absolutely adores their kids. I know that this is the cliche, and I imagine when you're a parent and you absolutely adore your kids, you love them, you think everything they do is an absolute miracle, and you want everybody else to know them too, and to appreciate the beautiful children that they are. And so, at every opportunity, when you meet another parent, you're gonna bring up your kids. Or maybe even just as a matter of small talk, you're gonna bring up your kids. Or something like that. You're not stressed about it. You don't have this pressure going oh man, I need to tell this cash lady at the cash registry about my kids. Let me just shove it in her face, even though she's distracted and she doesn't want to hear it right now. But if the lady, mentions something about kids or just seems open to talk, chances are you're going to go into that because you think that everybody in the world will be so benefited by the knowledge of your children and the joy that they bring you and the joy that they could bring those people. I think that, at least that's the way that I witness to people these days, and it's a lot easier, it's a lot less stressful, I'm a lot happier, and other people are a lot happier, and other people are a lot more open, and I've still had a lot of conversations about Jesus, with most of the people that I meet, because genuinely, I love Him, He's kind of my life, And I'm sure that genuinely some people would be annoyed by it and like be like, okay, this is all you care about, and I don't want to. Yeah. So it's not like I'm any less bold, I guess, of a witness just because I'm not shoving something in people's faces that they're not ready for. But then I guess the question becomes, well, there has to be that pressure, and there has to be like that stress, and there has to be that forcefulness and shoving it at people because it's super important, because we have a responsibility type thing. And how God helped me to like get over my anxiety in regards to that was two things. First of all, and like to just allow it to happen naturally when it happens or not happen, and by it I mean a more specific sharing of the gospel. Okay, was first of all, God's got this. Okay, first, but look at the stream. It's alive. It's living water, which it's moving water. That was like the original thing that the term came from. And I cleared out some sticks of it so that it would stop being all algae and stagnant, and now it's moving again. Yay, because it was raining too. Makes me happy. Anyway, God's got this, just like he made that stream. He made those people. He loves them a lot more than he loves you. I'm sorry. He loves them as much as he loves you, and he loves them a lot more than you love them. And if he wants to save them, which he does, he can find a way to do that, with or without you. And with you playing as much of a role or as little of a role as he wants. So, I don't think that I will be blamed for anybody's rejecting God. It's between God and every soul, and he uses whatever he uses. And also, God is like really patient and seems to have no problem letting people, letting Paul do what Paul did as Saul for years and years. Letting me run around and I was saved, but like run around for 6 years in absolute spiritual misery before he finally turned the light on, etc. He's very patient. So if somebody is not wanting you to open the Bible with them right then you're just being a nice and kind person, whether they know, and especially if they know you're a Christian, that's fine, because they're not ready for something more clear yet, and once they are, God knows how to get that to them. So you can meet every person where they are and be okay with that, because God has this whole process, and it's fine. And it gets much better to do less than to do more. At least this was my instinct, because my tendency in the past had been to do too much, and therefore, my cousins used to not want to talk to me, my sister used to not want to talk to me, because all I felt like I had to be doing was bringing the conversation around back to God, and they just were not at that point yet. So then the second thing, let me see, should I turn this? No. The second thing is that I don't know, and you don't know, which actions of ours are going to have an effect, or are going to be used, or whatever. I don't like that, because God is using everything that happens, so are going to have an effect to really strongly draw someone toward Christ. For instance, I could sit down with somebody, open the Bible, go through all of the whole scripture from Genesis to Revelation. They could get up, be like, that was a boring conversation. I didn't understand half of what she was saying, and it was kind of annoying, because I was just trying to eat my croissant and read my newspaper, whatever, and pretty much never think about that again. And only later, 5 years later, in some tragedy, come to God. Or somebody could be horribly depressed, walking along the street, and one of those situations I'm gonna go jump off a bridge unless somebody smiles at me and shows me some common human decency. You could walk along, be all happy and with the fruit of the Spirit, and smile at that person, and maybe have a short conversation, and not even say anything about God or anything about Jesus, but could literally save their life. And you don't know. I don't know what the sight of me just smiling and walking along the grocery store buying my food might do in somebody to put hope in their heart and give them a little taste of God and what is good and draw them closer, etc. So I don't feel any more this pressure to make Herculean and unnatural efforts to shove the scheme of the gospel into everything. It should happen as naturally as a tree grows fruit. And if it's not, then I think either maybe you are looking at it wrong or putting too much pressure on yourself, and so nothing would ever be enough. unless you were on the street corner all day, like passing out tracts all day. Or there's something wrong with like your understanding of God, and he's really not giving you the joy and the love and the fruit that you should. And in that case, like, that's the most important thing to work on, is who is God to me, and is he genuinely somebody that I want to share. But yeah, I guess witnessing is just the living as a Christian and not being so much of a salesman as like you have this amazing best friend or these kids or this spouse or somebody that you really want to talk about because you think everybody should know about them. And it can be that fun and rewarding, and people are surprisingly open. Everybody wants good. Everybody wants love. Everybody really wants God. They just don't know it.